It's 7 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. We're going to first stand and salute the nation's flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Supervisors Fisher, Aguizio, Savavik, Cassiola, and Fleer in attendance. In addition, Township Manager Don Januso, Planning Director and Assistant Township Manager Jack King, Chief of Police Sean Bakovinsky, Public Works Director Bill Bodorf, Township Engineer Dan Deiseroth, and Township Solicitor Gretchen Moore. At this time, we'll take citizens' comments will be taken at this time for any item to be voted on by the board that appears on the agenda. General township comments or questions will be addressed after Board of Supervisors discussion of old business. Please step to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Okay.
Hello, I'm Kate McCullough.
Hi, Kate, sorry to interrupt really quickly. Just for when you tell us, could you tell us which agenda item you're referencing?
Well, actually, I have an email where your solicitor, Gretchen Moore, and your township manager, I requested to be on the agenda, and for whatever reason, I am not. If I may I approach you and show this to you?
Sure, but we're still, unfortunately, at this point, taking comments that are for items on the agenda. We'll be happy to listen to your comment at the end during general comments.
What is the excuse that I wasn't put on the agenda? I understand Mr. Eric Gary was on the agenda, and Mr. Januso before the meeting said that residents cannot be on the agenda. That gentleman is a resident.
The township sets the agenda with whatever township business needs to be addressed at that meeting. Residents are free at the beginning to come up and speak about items on the agenda, or at the end to speak about any other residential issues they have.
Email request from me, you're copied on it.
It doesn't mean you get put on the agenda, ma'am.
Really? I thought this was the United States of America. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We'd be happy to listen to you during general comment. Okay, thank you.
Question for the, can you hear me?
Sometimes it works better if you hold it.
Yeah.
Anna, you can hold it.
I have a question for the board about can you hear me? It's too loud?
Can you state your name and address
Oh,
for
I'm
the
sorry.
record?
Anna Cohen, Cecil. I have a question for the board about the agenda. The agenda is supposed to be for the citizens, am I correct? Supposed to be made up so that we know what's going on in the township?
No, the agenda is really for us to set a list of items that the township business items the township needs to
Or
address.
should be a guideline for us too, the citizens as well as the board. Whatever you're bringing up, it should be the citizens. It should be a guideline for us also. The agenda. If we
Yeah, I mean,
didn't have
it certainly
agenda-
provides notice to the
Pardon me?
residents. It provides notice to the residents in advance of the meeting.
Okay.
Sure.
And my problem is, last meeting, there was an interruption and a reorganization. That was not on the agenda. Should that not have been on the agenda, that you were going to call for a reorganization?
I believe it was under new township business.
Sorry?
It was under new township business at the end of the meeting.
It wasn't at the end of the meeting. It was like middle ways, Frank.
No, that item came up during new Board of Supervisors discussion of new business. And we try to provide, as you can tell in this month's, a list of things that supervisors have asked to be added, but things do come up.
In talking with different citizens in the township, my understanding that it was something that we were not aware of. I thought it was inappropriate for the board to present that to the citizens like they did. It was not becoming to any one of you. I'd like for you to think about it, and I think we owe some people in here an apology.
We're going to ask that if you have any comments or questions that you step to the microphone, otherwise we're going to move on.
Having worked about 20-some years in the consulting engineering field, I was at numerous public meetings where reorganization was advertised so all the citizens could be involved. You know, it doesn't look good when you have a reorganization that it just comes up and it takes the residents unaware. Again, for the record, I'm Kate McCullough at 107 Fairway Landings Drive. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak, at least on this.
Just for a little clarification too, we have a new video recording system. The goal this month would be to have it posted in the next day or so on our township website, and within a month or two, have it live streamed. That's why when I'm asking, kind of being a little bit more strict about coming to the microphone to speak, that's why. We want anybody who wants to view this recording to be able to hear what people are saying. Is it an agenda item? No, only agenda items, same as before. Okay. If there's no other comments about agenda items, we're going to move on. In an effort to save some time, I'm not going to read the announcements to you.
I mean, it doesn't have an agenda item, but it's under new business credit. That's my question.
Yeah, you can come up and talk about something that's under new business. Sorry.
All right, no problem. I'll close the roll. Hi, William Cass, Fire Chief, Lawrence Fire and Rescue, Cecil number 1. Just one quick point. We are looking forward to a meeting with the fire district with you guys. But I also see a thing about the UDO being changed, and we would like you to table that until we have the fire district meeting, because that definitely affects the fire departments on how you build things and why you build things. And that's my point, that's all.
So since I added both of those, I'll
Yeah.
speak to them. We're happy to, but please understand, anything that comes up under new business is not something that will be voted on tonight.
Oh,
It's
that's
just,
that's my question.
yeah,
Okay,
it's
thanks.
just a suggestion, a guideline for discussion. In the past, as Mrs. Cohen brought up, we've kind of surprised all of you with things that, you know, some of us have wanted to speak about. The goal is to not have that happen anymore.
Oh, that's perfect. I thought it was going to be voted on tonight. That's where
Nope.
it wasn't clear. Thanks.
Thank you.
And thanks for getting the other item on the,
No problem.
under the ordinance.
Okay. Actually, yeah, I'll call you up whenever you're ready. Sorry about the confusion. Okay, moving on. So, let me start at the beginning. Resolution 122, 2019, consider the full release of financial security for private improvements associated with the Dollar General store located along Millers Run Road, a total of $27,044.38, as recommended by the township engineer.
Members of the board, this is the final release to the money related to the securities posted for the Dollar General project. If you recall, last month you did a partial release. There was a punch list of items that they had to address. They've provided all the information. They replaced some trees. They fixed their dumpster, and there was an inspection done. So at this time, they are complete with the project, and I would recommend release of their full security.
Anybody want to make a motion? Moved by Cassiola, seconded by Savavic. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And it passes 5-0. 123, 2019, consider the application for payment number 1 for Contract C 2019 Pavement Maintenance Program to Youngblood Paving in the amount of $86,477.08 as recommended by the township engineer.
Yeah, this is a recommendation. This is for work complete to date on the project. We're still withholding retainage until the final punch list is addressed, and there's the actual maintenance bond is provided on the project. So this is just for partial payment, payment number 1 to Youngblood for the Contract C.
Any motions?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Motion made by Fleer, second by Gizio. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0. 124, 2019, consider application for payment number 2 and final final for Contract E 2018 Pavement Maintenance Program to Youngblood Paving in the amount of $18,847.85 as recommended by the Township Engineer.
Yeah, this is for the other contract, for Contract E for the pavement maintenance, surface treatment work they did on O'Hara Road from Muse Bishop Road to SR 980. They have completed the work, addressed all punch lists, provided the required maintenance bond, and we're recommending final payment in the amount of $18,847.85.
I make a motion to approve.
Second. Motion made by Fleer, second by Savavic. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
125-2019, consider application for payment number 2 and final for Contract D 2018 Pavement Maintenance Program to Youngblood Paving in the amount of $50,173.28 as recommended by the Township Engineer.
Yeah, again, this is a partial payment. These were the later contracts, the maintenance projects, the maintenance work for seal coating. Again, there's been about $50,000 worth of work complete, and we still, I'm sorry. This is, I'm sorry, this isn't correct. It is for application number 2 and final on it. It says application number 1 in the first paragraph. It is for number 2 and final in the amount of $51,7328. The work is complete. The maintenance bond has been provided, and we're recommending payment of payment number 2.
So for $50,173.28.
Yeah, $50,173.28, correct.
Okay. Motion.
I make a motion to approve.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's approved 5-0. 126-2019, consider the construction of additional sidewalks at the intersection of Main Street and Town Center Boulevard by South Point 2 Property Owners Association Incorporated, with the condition that the cost of installation and future maintenance will be borne by the association, which they have already agreed to in writing.
May I add to this one that this motion be subject to an agreement acceptable to the township solicitor? I've already worked with the SPOA's attorney. We do have a very short agreement that we both are okay with.
This is a little gap in the sidewalk. If you look at your screen that they're proposing to install, this is the roundabout at the intersection of Town Center, or Main Street and Town Center Way. And this is Town Center Boulevard right here. This is the roundabout. There's just a little section of sidewalk that they need to complete within here to get over to another piece of sidewalk along this side of the road. They put forth this proposal. We reviewed it in the field. Mike Haberman, our traffic guy, looked at this with them, had to make some changes, and this is the final layout, which is a crosswalk here with handicap ramp, piece of sidewalk that works up and around, and then there will be another ADA ramp with a crossing here with the stair steps and onto another ramp. So it's a simple piece of sidewalk that sort of completes everything down there. Why this piece wasn't put in at the time when they developed it, I'm not sure, but they are taking the initiative to put it in. And they will maintain it, they will pay for it, and they will maintain it, that being the Property Owners Association. Yeah, they'll do everything.
Dan, is that property on the right, is that the 1400 Main Street, the apartments?
Correct. As you're going up in this direction, Eric, up in this direction on the right on Main Street.
Oh, I was thinking it was over here to the right on the page.
This is South Point Boulevard, way down on this side right here. Where
Right, but where's that
goes-
crosswalk go to, sir?
that just goes to another sidewalk. I think I have a. Yeah, I thought I had an aerial shot of that. I can call it up for you. But this goes down to South Point Boulevard right here, Eric.
Okay.
Motion.
I make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Consider the 10th release of financial security posted for the installation of public and private improvements for the McConnell Trails Phase 1 from $1,120,129.45 to $603,239.45, a total reduction of $516,890 as recommended by the township engineer.
Yeah, this is for a release that has been requested by the developer. They've done a substantial amount of paving up there. That's why it's such a big estimate at this time. We reviewed that work, and we recommend the release of the funds.
Dan, I have a question on that.
Sure.
When I was taken to that site probably a year and a half ago by Mike Haberman, he told me coming down McConnell Road, when you hit Muse Bishop Road to the left, those embankments would be sloped there, looking towards Muse, so there'd be better site visibility. I didn't see any of that done.
You mean on the off-site improvement, Frank?
No, coming down at the stop sign of McConnell and Muse Bishop, looking to the left, those embankments on Muse Bishop Road were supposed to be sloped back so you have better site visibility, because that's a problem intersection.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
the
you're
off-site.
talking about off-site
Do you recall
improvements.
any? I'll check into it, Frank. I don't have the plan here with me tonight, but I'll look it up and give you an answer before tonight. the end of the
Thank you.
Another thing, Dan, I talked to Bill. Their entrance, I think it needs to be made wider because they're running 4 foot up off the road. All those trucks in there. When they're turning out onto McConnell, they're way off the asphalt.
Okay.
Because the road's not wide
Did you
enough.
see it, Bill?
The radius needs to be widened. Yeah, Grant Shiring, the engineer for the project, is here.
Needs to be widened. With regard to what Frank just mentioned, there's still an over vertical condition on the looking left embankment right there to be taken down. It's understood that they would get that to about a 2-to-1 slope, but I think there's still an over vertical condition right there. There is. Site distance of that. Look into that. That's where the tree came down. Yes.
Do I have a motion?
Did I not hear Dan say he was going to get back to Frank that answer? Do you need a little bit of time?
No, I mean, so they're two separate issues. We're still holding enough money. This is a question on the off-site. This is this for a payment tonight. There's still substantial funds there that we're holding on the developer. I would recommend proceeding with this, and then we'll look into the question to the supervisor, and if there's something more that needs to be done, we'll take care of it.
Yeah,
I'll
we're
make a
still
motion.
holding over $603,000. So even if we release this 516, there's still enough money if that's not addressed. If you're not comfortable, Frank, though.
I'll make a
There's enough
motion.
money there, but it's a problem area, it needs to be addressed, though. We're not going to overlook it.
Agreed. Okay, do I have a motion?
I make a
mean,
motion to
I-
approve it.
I agree with Frank. I mean, sometimes when you build stuff in the field, the final piece needs adjusted, and their changes are a part of what we do. So we'll work with the developer. This developer's been reasonable to deal with, and if we need to make some changes or do some more work, we'll get it done.
Second. I have a second.
Second?
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Passes 4-1. 128-2019, consider application 2019-12 for the Katsevich property, Cecil Elementary Apartments, Phase 2, applicant Ben and Erna Katsevich, location in Cecil Elementary Drive, C3 Village Commercial Zoning District. The plan received Planning Commission approval on June 27, 2019.
The developer's engineer's here and can give you a quick rundown on the project.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity to be here again. Last time we talked, there were some issues with the fire department, fire codes. We've since worked through that with the township engineer and your fire code official, Jason Brown. We received a letter that was all okay by this point. So the development, the current building is here, phase 1 and we're talking about phase 2, which is going to be down in the bottom corner here. We're proposing 16 one-bedroom apartments in a two-story apartment building here. And stormwater, everything is been reviewed by the township engineer, as parking, landscaping, all that, and fire code has been all reviewed and approved. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Apartments open to anyone or assisted living type apartments?
To anyone.
Okay. And you said there's 16 one-bedroom apartments?
That's right.
How many are in the existing building?
22.
So a total of 38.
Yes.
And Dan, you're comfortable there's enough parking and,
Yeah, the parking meets the requirements of the ordinance. And the big issue was just making sure that the fire hydrants were in the right location and that the proper radiuses were on the driveways to make sure that the firefighting apparatus could get into the development. From a zoning perspective, it meets all the requirements and is ready for your consideration.
So is the school being made into apartments also?
Yeah, 22 in the school and 16 new ones in a new building, Ron.
Okay.
more out of curiosity than anything, there were some significant structural and issues with the school. Are those needing to be addressed before the apartments go in, or? Oh, great. And I know there was asbestos in it. That's been great. Thank you. Any other questions? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Do I have-
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Moves 5-0. 129-2019, consider application 2019-014 for the Geary Consolidation Plan, applicant Eric Geary, location Charles Street, R2 medium density residential zoning district. The plan received Planning Commission approval on June 27, 2019.
Yeah, this is a minor subdivision. Just grab my file. This is a minor subdivision which is located off of Charles Street in the R2 medium zoning district. It proposes the consolidation of two lots of 1 acre, and the second lot, Lot 4 of 1 acre, into one lot. They're calling it Lot 3R. So that'd be this piece right here. They're taking and eliminating this line and creating one lot to call it Lot 3R. They've addressed all of our technical issues, and one of the issues was we just wanted to make sure that the sewage does not yet extend to this property. The sewage line ends down around here, so there is a note on the plan to address. I worked with the municipal authority on this to make sure that there's a proper note on here that identifies that public service is currently not provided for the property, and approved planning module for sewage facilities and extension of the public sewer must be constructed at the property owner's expense for the issuance of the building permit. And typically, the planning module comes before you get to this point in the subdivision, but the fact is it's already two lots. So it's two lots being made one lot. We just wanted to make sure people have notification that there is no sewage there. They could develop it as a lot right now, but they don't need it, they don't need anything, but we just wanted to make sure that there was no question if people came in or somebody else bought this, that it was covered. Otherwise, it's simple.
How far are they going to extend that line?
I think it's about 120 feet or so, Ron, to get past this lot up here, get up to this.
They just have to
edge.
get to the corner of it, right?
Yeah, there's a sewer right down here, I believe, at the corner.
Do I have any other questions? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second? Do I have a second? I'll second it. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0. 1/30/2019, consider application 2019-017 for McConnell Trails Phase 2A subdivision plan in accordance with the approved PRD plan. Applicant McConnell Trails LLC, R2 Medium Density Residential Zoning District. The plan received Planning Commission approval on July 18th, 2019.
Grant sharing with PV, just 1 second.
Time's up.
So this is a request for final approval for Phase 2A. This is just the overall master plan. Phase 2A is the area that's highlighted in red. So we originally came for overall Phase 2A. When we went back and looked at the grading, we found that there was a good balance point at roughly this point within the existing topography. If we were going to go up into here, we would also have to push into Phase 3 and construct an additional pond. The developer wasn't ready to do that at this point in time, so they have gone ahead and divided Phase 2 into 2A and 2B. And this is the section that is 2A. There are 22 single-family lots that are shown in yellow. There are 26 townhomes that are in the brown here. And then there are 12 units of attached duplexes that are in orange located here. So we received Gateway's comment letter today. There's mostly administrative items, such as finishing the developer's agreement, the letter of credit. So we will comply with all those conditions. But all the technical comments have been addressed.
Are you just putting sidewalks in?
Yes, sir, we are on both sides of the street.
Dan, are we going to ask for them to do like we asked Traditions of America, put 4-foot wide sidewalks in?
We do have the township standard detail, which I believe is 4 feet.
Okay.
They go in with the house, as each feet in this development.
They are 4 foot wide.
I have a question. What was in the letter that you received from Dan today?
So the administrative items that are required is that a full developer's agreement with established escrow must be executed. The final security must be in place. Conformance to all conditions required as a part of the PRD approval. The municipal authority's approval of the sanitary sewers, and the applicant obtaining all required permits, and the applicant and use of development of the subject property comply with all applicable federal, state, county, township laws, statutes, ordinances, resolution, and regulations, including but not limited to the Township's Unified Development Ordinance. Those are all conditions that you approved the first phase under, and this is just a reiteration from the Township Solicitor with these conditions.
Are you guys still working on putting some kind of safety fence up or something over the tunnel or the bridge or whatever you want to call it?
Yes, I actually have a draft plan that I have to send to Mr. Dizeroff so that we can
Okay.
work through the details of that, but there will be a guardrail and also a fence.
Okay.
Were those conditions, were they given by the planning commission or?
No, Eric, they're all administrative items.
Okay.
I'm just making them based upon these administrative items that I read into the record.
Seems like a lot that he has to do, and we're approving it this evening.
No, a developer's agreement is always done afterwards, so is the financial security.
Okay.
The conditions to the PRD, that goes with every phase of the development. There were a number of conditions, if you remember, which included what Frank was talking about, the off-site improvements. So they have to continue to conform to those. The municipal authorities are third party. They have to get their approval before they get building permits. We just cover that all the time. And then any other required permits, like they have to get an MPDS permit, which they already have. So they're ready to go. This is just a formalization.
Okay.
There's no technical comments.
Okay.
Which is good. Yeah. Do I have a motion? Second?
Second?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
5-0. 131-2019, consider the application for the 2020 Washington County Local Share Account Grant application for the replacement of 4 bridges in Cecil Township Park, which is due by September 25th, 2019. This is a grant application that I've been working on with Dan, Bill, and Dawn to replace the 4 bridges that go from the one side of Cecil Park to the other. I'm sure any of you who know, who've been in the park know that they're in desperate need of repair. Thanks, Dan. And we've been looking for grant monies to do that. The LSA grant that we're applying for requires a specific motion that be passed at a meeting that we can provide with the grant application showing that the board is in support of this grant. Dan, anything else that I missed?
No, there's a snapshot just of the picture of the bridges where they're located.
At this point, the grant that we're applying for is approximately $300,000. Well, it's $300,000, but there's a requirement that there's a 50% match by the township. So this is what we're working towards at this point. But this is why this is an agenda item. So any questions, concerns?
With the bridge?
So the bridges are between $50,000 and $65,000 a bridge. I don't have it in front of me, but am I wrong?
Yep.
That's right. The hope would be to get 2 paid for and then match or come up with the monies for 2 on our own. And there would be, should they accept our grant, there's a presentation before. There's a class that I have to go to August 15th that'll kind of walk you through the process. We've been working on it anyways, but it'll kind of walk you through the process. And then there's a presentation should we be selected.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thanks. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. 132, 2019, consider the updated zoning district map dated May 28, 2019, which represents all approved changes since the last map revision. This is something that's come before the board, I think, 2 months in a row prior, and we asked for clarification. I don't know if you remember, but they were teeny tiny, and for those of us that don't have the best eyes, it was hard to see. So Dan had walked through, and we had tabled it a couple months in a row, but that's why this is back on there. It's nothing new, it's already stuff that's been approved, it's just an updated version of it. Dan, anything to add?
No, the map has been revised, and I have the map on the screen here. There's basically, all we're doing, the board is doing is ratifying the change to the map from previously approved changes in zoning. And the map is very specific and lists the changes, a total of 6, and where they're located, and they were highlighted on this particular map for the board to look at. And thanks to everybody for their research and recollection. This is something that should be done annually, so we don't get behind, and we're testing our memories. So I'm glad to get this cleaned up, and we can move on.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Approve.
I'll second it. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. 133, 2019, consider ordinance 1, 2019, an ordinance of Cecil Township, Washington County, Pennsylvania, authorizing the Cecil Township Volunteer Fire Company Number 1 of Lawrence, Cecil Township Volunteer Number 2, and Cecil Township Volunteer Fire Company Number 3 of Miller's Run, Inc. to obtain reimbursement for the cost of materials expended and services rendered in fighting fires and rendering emergency service and emergency rescue services, providing for severability, repealing prior ordinances to the contrary, and establishing an effective date. This is an ordinance that has been advertised for 30 days. Am I wrong? 45 days? Go ahead. You want to talk?
No, it doesn't require that long.
I forget. It was advertised.
Yes, it was properly advertised. No hearing is required.
Okay.
And it was advertised on July 20th.
Okay, it was advertised on July 20th. But it allows our companies to recoup costs that they incur when they attend an accident or attend a fire. So that's all it really is. And it's something that we've needed to do for a while now and just are finally pushing that through.
And basically, they can go direct to the insurance carriers. No township resident would ever be billed directly, and that's very clear in this ordinance, but it allows the fire department to work with the insurance carriers to seek that reimbursement.
Correct. Thank you for that clarification. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion. I've been waiting for a long time.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. 5-0. 134, 2019, consider a fireworks display for the Cecil Township Fall Festival. Do you want to talk about it or you want me to? I will, okay. So Supervisor Gizio and I have been attending the Parks Board meetings for a while now and talking about the Fall Fest. They've been talking about the Fall Festival. One of the things that we've heard is that, you know, it needs to be jazzed up a little bit, and so they came up with a plan to add fireworks. And so that's why this is an agenda item. The details of it aren't specific, but we're working on the possibility of having fireworks on one night or another at the Fall Festival this year, which I think would be awesome and would hopefully bring in a lot of people. But it needs to be board approved. So all those or can I have a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Yep. I don't know, just a thought that we still should go through the permit process for the fireworks through the fire department, just make sure, what location were you thinking of, or?
So it's not me. So there will be a meeting set up. We were at the Parks Board meeting this past Thursday. Before it gets to the process of deciding that, it needed to be board approved. Now there will be a meeting set up by Assistant Township Manager Jack King between the fire departments, the gentleman, Fireworks Joe, who's going to be doing the fireworks, and the township to kind of work out those details, because you learn a lot about fireworks, but I guess there's different fireworks you buy based on the location that they're going to be set off from. I don't know, but that's why we're hiring an expert to do that. So now that once this gets formally approved, that is the next step, is to have that meeting. And it's my understanding, Mr. King, that that will be set up tomorrow. Well, not the meeting tomorrow, but it will be set up starting tomorrow. Okay. So
Do we have a dollar amount, or do we know
we know that.
what these would cost?
Yeah. I'm sorry?
Do we have an idea of what they would cost?
So we're estimating around $3,000.
Okay. I would encourage just that the fire departments do look at it. I mean, it is the Fall Festival. The Fall Festival was over at 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening, so you'd be bringing people back to the park. But also the concerns, maybe, and I'm the first one to show up at fireworks, but that is the fall, and if they were in the parks shot off, well, we have the trail that's, what, 50, 100 feet up above the floor of the Cecil Park. It just may be a hazard, or maybe very challenging if something were to catch fire.
That's why we're bringing in the experts. These are not things that I feel comfortable, and I think Supervisor, I don't want to speak for you, but I think he would agree. I think the Parks Board would agree. That's why we're asking for board approval to kind of move forward in the investigation of this process.
Now,
They're
just a
supposed
challenge.
to meet with Jason also.
Yeah.
The fire code officer will be there, supposed to attend the meeting.
Right.
And
just-
he would order fireworks that go up pretty high up in the air. He knows what he has to do.
It's just a challenge with the fall festival. Leaves are changing. Grass is dried out from the year. Just those thoughts that, don't mind the fireworks. Maybe it would work better for another venue or some other time of the year, or for the opening of a movie night or something in the park, or in the summer or spring, or just something, maybe not as much in the fall.
Well, we felt the festival needed a jolt, so.
Okay.
Yeah, the goal was, people are already coming down and around to do something to kind of add to the Fall Festival, and so this is the thought. Please understand, our solicitor brought to my attention, she's absolutely right, there's no cost associated with this. This is just the investigation. If we sit down with the fire companies, the FCO, and the township, and we realize this isn't going to work at all, then it won't come back. If we do agree that this is something that we can move forward with, then there would be an agenda item in September that says we're going to spend X number of dollars on fireworks for approval or for use at the Fall Festival. But it's just whether or not, we don't want to go through all those steps and then find out the board doesn't want to do it. So
I make a motion, we approve it.
do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
5-0. 135, 2019, consider the township manager secretary to have signature authority on behalf of the township regarding PennDOT and the Southern Beltway documents. Do you want me to explain, or you want to explain? You can, doesn't matter.
The PennDOT generally requires signatures, and as the secretary, I have the signature authority. However, whenever you execute a document with PennDOT, they always want the board to pass another resolution indicating that I have that signatory authority. This is for documents that will eventually allow the township to take over the sections, the realigned sections of Morganza Road out of the development of the Southern Beltway.
So if the board moves forward with this, we should draft this as a formal resolution. I do
That's
think
correct,
they
yes.
require
And
a written resolution.
PennDOT has a form for us.
Okay, we're good.
Okay, so, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
5-0. 136, 2019, consider color coding and line striping of the basketball courts in Lawrence Park by A.G. Bevick at a lump sum cost of $5,500. Bill, any comments, questions?
The only comment I have is Tony Bevick was the contractor that put the application on the tennis courts out there. He's got a very good process. It's very durable, long-lasting, and we've got the basketball courts in Lawrence ready for this process. The post and support columns have all been cleaned, plastered, and painted. New backboards installed, new hoops, and the surface itself has been cracked sealed, and we cleared and grubbed around that court, so it's now ready for a finished surface up there. Long-term, looking down the road, it would be nice to put a couple of benches, one on each side of that court, the same type of bench that we have out here in the park. The gold with the blue anchors. That's for another time. Right now, it's the coating. I've also had some interest expressed in possibly top coating the deck hockey court. It's in a state right now where it needs to be done. We won't do anything with that until we've got this process done in Lawrence. Then we'll ask Mr. Bevick to take a look at that court and give us a cost estimate for that. Let's see that.
Bill, is that what they anticipated putting pickleball courts?
I'm still working on the details of all that. Right?
Yeah, I hear it's becoming popular. They opened, I think, a couple courts in Cannonsburg, and they have like 70 people playing over there. So.
It's fun.
There's a lot of details to work out before we get to that.
Okay.
Work and all that stuff. So I have some stuff in my report that I'll bring up.
Great, thanks. Do I have a motion?
When would this work be done, Bill? Right now, this year?
I don't have a schedule from the contractor. I'm waiting for board approval, and then I'll move forward with it and see where he's at, and we'll get things scheduled. My guess is it's not going to be until the early part of September.
Thanks. Do I have a motion?
So moved?
Second.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
5-0. 137, 2019, consider creating a capital parks account. This is also something that Supervisor Agizio and I had talked about coming from the Parks and Rec meetings. We're noticing that a lot of the things that have been suggested as far as improvements to the parks are expensive, and so therefore need to have a significant amount of money either saved for or put aside, for future plans. You'll see that in Supervisor's new business. But a way to kind of do that is to create a capital parks account where the money can be moved into, if this is approved, it'll be the next slide item, where we can utilize that money this year, or we can save it for future uses. But that's the purpose of creating the capital parks accounts. So do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. 138, 2019, consider moving $150,000 from the general fund park improvement account for the capital parks account. Again, something Supervisor Gizio and I had put forward, because as you remember, we budgeted for about $200,000 for monies to be utilized for parks. We as a board did that. And we've spent about $47,000-ish, give or take a little bit, on equipment for Lawrence Park. So the idea is to move that $150,000 to capital parks. That's not saying that it wouldn't go for something utilized this year. It may. There are some ideas out there. It may be utilized as the match for the LSA grant. It may be used for a number of other things. But just to keep it so that we can kind of create a separate account specific for parks. Do I have a motion?
Motion?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Just as a housekeeping note on that, the movement of the money does require a formal resolution, so the board just voted on it. I'll put it into a simple one-page resolution.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you. 139, 2019, consider the amended June 3rd, 2019 Board of Supervisors minutes as previously adopted to include the comments of Lisa Walk. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
5-0. 140, 2019, consider the minutes of the consider the minutes from the Monday, July 1st, 2019 Board of Supervisors regular monthly meeting. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? I'll second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. It passes 5-0. 141, 2019, consider the general fund invoices from July 1st through July 31st, 2019.
Make a motion.
Do I have a motion and a second? Sorry, you said a motion. Do I have a second? I'll second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Passes 5-0. 142, 2019, discuss park improvement funding. I have no idea what that. Okay, I was going to say that's a duplicate. We're going to cross that out. Okay. Administrative reports. Public Works report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a lengthy list of things I want to go over just to update the board and the citizens. The department's been working diligently on the in-house program. It's currently in progress. To date, we've completed paving on Cowden Road, West End Drive, and Railroad Street. We're currently prepping a portion of Galati Road for paving and also Schifoni Road. That'll pretty much wrap up what we have on our in-house program. As Dan mentioned, the 2019 capital roads is pretty much complete, 95% complete. We're holding back retainage for punch list items such as joint gutter line sealing, topsoil, seed, mulch, and backing up to edge of roads. I have one more item to discuss with regard to roads. On July 17th, we conducted a final inspection along with the Turnpike representatives and the contractor to go over what needed to be done for the turnover of Laurel Hill Road. And there are some outstanding punch list items. One of the items that still remains out there, and we looked at the drainage, and there was some concern expressed at the last meeting about drainage at Sunset Drive. And the remaining punch list that I have here that still has to be addressed by the Turnpike and their contractor is to investigate and develop a new drainage system at Sunset Drive. They're still contemplating that with their engineering staff, and they haven't come to a decision as to what they are actually going to do, but they've all agreed that drainage is a concern. So that still hangs out there. With regard to the parks, I'd like to give you a quick update. Again, thank you for approving the color coding for the basketball court over there. Our plans right now, we have a playground equipment in our facility down there, and we expect to begin installing that in late August, beginning of September. And with that, I am requesting from the board tonight, our plans include access to that playground. So I'm going to have to go in there and create a rock construction entrance, and then we'll pave it on the way out so that there's access to the playground, a paved surface. Everything will be ADA compliant, just as we've done over here at the park with the trails. The trail in and around the playground itself will be done with our paving operation. The trail itself will be 8 foot wide and made of and constructed of asphalt. So I'm asking the board for their approval to move forward with the work that has to be done over in Lawrence Park with regard to the access road in.
I think it's
We have to
fine.
take a formal vote on that tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Also, Continuing with some Cecil Park issues. The deck hockey court, I was asked by Jack to look into what can be done with the bottom of the chain link fence over there. Currently, the kids are putting cardboard at the bottom of the fence, and we've come up with a system we're going to install. It's going to be a Trex-type 5/4 decking attached to the bottom of the fence, and they'll be able to use that as a rebound board also, and it will minimize the chances of anybody falling on that. That 5/4 decking is only an inch thick, and we'll do a positive connection to the bottom of the chain link fence and connect them all with a biscuit. So, also with Cecil Park, I have new backboards and hoops on order. The current backboards over there are crazed and cracked. They're plexiglass.
Can we take a quick step back?
Yes.
Around the deck hockey, thank you. The monies spent on that would need to be board approved, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
I think so, yes.
yes.
I don't have a cost estimate for that.
Okay.
I don't have a cost estimate for that. We just came up with the idea. We've been wrestling with several things, and that's probably the safest thing that we can install at the base of
I'm
that
okay
fence.
with it. I just want
Okay.
to make sure we're
Yeah,
crossing
we're
our
not,
Ts where we need
I won't
to.
move forward without board approval on the actual cost of that.
Okay.
Again, and I'm actually very pleased to see everybody agree to create a capital account for the parks. That's something that we'll use, and we have a number that we can charge against when we do work in the park, and it doesn't come out of the capital roads budget, such as the access road into the Lawrence Park over there, just for aggregate and asphalt. We can tag that capital item when we do work like that. So that'll make it nice and clean, and we'll be able to account for the money that's spent in our parks. And that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Hey, Bill,
Yes.
I thought we agreed last year that you were going to do it in-house, you were going to repave the parking lot up there. That parking lot's terrible.
No, we had a cost construction estimate last year that was included in the bids from Youngblood, and there was never, it was left to, they may come back and do it. I think it was $50,000, but we had no plans in-house to do it. We can't do that in-house with our paver. Our paver's not big enough to do that.
I thought Tom Robinson gave you a bid of $45,000.
Last year, there was a cost, yes, and I think it was around $45,000 or $50,000, but that was last year. That was an alternate bid that was
Right.
In connection with the tennis courts, and that was never voted on or approved, I don't think.
I mean, do you agree it needs to be done?
Oh, I do agree. Yes. Yes.
Bill, I have a question on that Mon Valley Expressway. There was a gentleman in 3 months ago, and he needed a driveway. Were you working on that? That would go out to Morganza Road, or was that Dawn, or do you recall that gentleman?
I vaguely do. That was,
Off of Fellowship?
yes, off
Dan
Fellowship.
Dan and I are working on that issue with the Turnpike Commission now.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, I think we reviewed that in a meeting with PennDOT, and we looked at some typical sections for the grade going into the cul-de-sac and stuff. And I was fine with the grade that they presented for the cul-de-sac. There was going to be a grade going into the cul-de-sac, and I told the Turnpike that there would be no problem for us to do that. I guess the plan is to create a cul-de-sac there and then have that driveway come off of that. So that was, and I think that was generous on the Turnpike's part to help remedy that problem for that those two residents over there. So. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dan, engineers report.
Just quickly, two items that you all have a copy of my report, but two items to cover that I did not cover already. We did have a meeting related to the Windsor Woods development and the improvements at the intersection of the Pauley Road and Miller's Run Road, which Bill attended along with myself, representatives of the Meritage Group, who's the developer, and also Supervisor Flair attended the meeting. At the meeting, we discussed the concept to kick the road over to improve the sight distance there away from the restaurant. The developer is doing his improvements at the intersection, and he also offered and is providing a survey so that we can do a more comprehensive plan there to widen all the way back underneath the bridge and to clear that area up and improve that whole section of DePauli, which isn't overwhelming. The good thing is there's enough room between the bridge abutments that we can get the necessary widening there and improve that road from, once you get past the first driveway on the right-hand side, it improves all the way down. So I think Bill and I are on the same page, and we're working on a plan for that, and we'll get that work done.
We're also going to move those telephone poles.
Yeah, that's another part of it, correct. Yeah, we're going to get a plan together, work with the utility company to move the poles first, and then we'll go from there. The other item that I had on my list was just on Coal Valley. I've been carrying the same report for about 2 years on Coal Valley. Nothing's happening. In discussions with Bill Sember, who's working with the developer, there's still nothing in the way of activity on the development site itself going on. But what Bill Sember did let me know is that the improvements, which this board offered the money to go to from the South Point development, they're still making the improvements at the intersection of Morganza and McMurray. That project is still ongoing. It's just taking longer. There was big utility issues over there. He doesn't expect that to be actually bid or let until sometime next year by the time they get that worked out, but that's still ongoing. And then the second thing related to Coal Valley was there was correspondence from Coal Valley's engineer related to, and they copied the township and myself with correspondence related to they are working with the Traditions of America people on joint sewage improvements over there. So when I thought things were all, nothing was happening, it appears that they're still trying to obtain at least the sanitary sewers to service their development. That's all I have unless there's any other questions.
Dan, when you saw that letter, it came from Cool Valley to Traditions of America.
Correct.
Have we seen a response back?
I have not, Tom. But I just take it that they're working together. I have a call into Walter to see what's going on.
Because it looks like it's almost like the first proposal, we'll do this if you'll do this and this. So I'm anxious to see if you know anything from Traditions of America side on their cooperation.
We'll find out, let you know.
Okay, thank you. Gretchen, solicitor's reports.
Thank you. So this month, we've been working with the township, especially the manager, on multiple right-to-know requests, helping with responses. We helped to finalize the fire department ordinance. I've been working with both the buyer and the seller on the Clements property. They have requested a 30-day stay from the court, extension, I should say, on that order of court to close. It was supposed to close the end of this month. It's now set to close the end of next month. So I am hopeful that will be the end of it. I've drafted various opinions on legal matters as directed by the board. I assisted the township in a right-to-know appeal this month. In the category of court cases, we have the South Point Relo argument coming up in the next month or two, as well as the Augustine Wellpad appeal, which is currently in the Court of Common Pleas. Thank you.
Thanks. Moving on. Board of Supervisors discussion of new business. Set up a meeting with the Board of Supervisors and fire departments. This is something that we have tried and talked about doing quarterly for a long time, and we always seem to not do it. So I'd like to see something I added, I'd like to see that happen. We can set the meeting tonight, or you can go back and talk to your departments. We can come to a date, but I'd like to set a meeting within the next month. Do you want to talk to your group and then come back to us with a date?
You want to make this day, like a Thursday or Tuesday or whatever, do you want to have them regularly?
Yeah, I'm,
Just make a date.
Mondays for us is generally bad because of training.
okay.
Other than that, and I know for the other two departments, I believe, as well. So any other night than a Monday would be good, as long as we can.
So what if we say Tuesday, August 20th? Does that work for this board?
Yeah.
Tom, Eric? Yeah. Eric? Okay, so we'll say Tuesday, August 20th, 7 PM here. Perfect.
These are public meetings you're scheduling?
No, these are private meetings between the Board of Supervisors and the fire departments. We try to do them quarterly. The goal, hopefully, at this first meeting would be to set up a quarterly schedule for them, so we don't have to keep forgetting about them and then bringing them up at a public meeting.
So these are informational meetings? Okay.
Consider a property search for Public Works facility. Again, something I added to the agenda tonight. I was approached by a family that has property that touches property already owned by Cecil Township. They own, what do they own up there, 67 tons? I want to say it's 67 acres up there, but they're willing to subdivide off 10 acres to us for the development of a public works facility. Before we even get to that point, it's the Schifoni property. I think that we need to see if the board is interested and have our solicitor, there were some questions, some legal questions they had that I couldn't answer. We need to have authorize our solicitor to have a conversation with them. They have a purchase price in mind. We have limited purchase price availabilities. So authorize her to have that conversation with them and see if there is even a chance that we could move forward with that. But I think it's a good, where is it? It's up Glass Hill Road. So they own a significant acreage up there, but they're willing to subdivide us off 5 to 10 acres. So it's a step in.
Investigated.
Yeah. So if everyone's in favor, I would like to ask Gretchen to look into it. Are we okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, Gretchen, I'll give you the contact information and we can move forward there. Discuss rezoning request as they relate to the Unified Development Ordinance. Gretchen, do you want to?
Sure. So we had a workshop in September of this year. One of the items we discussed at that workshop was making some changes to the UDO so that the rezoning application process, it's a little more clear how it's going to proceed. So rezoning requests are not like other hearings. If you apply for one, it doesn't mean you necessarily get a hearing. They're purely legislative decisions of the governing body, but you can certainly come and apply. It seems to make more sense so that people aren't wasting their time and energy and money to have maybe a two-step process where preliminary application comes to the board considers whether they want to actually hold the hearing, and then at that point, the applicant can pay for and have the full hearing. The board obviously still can decide yay or nay, but they'd go through the full hearing process after deciding to move forward. And because the way the UDO is currently written, it's just not very clear that that would be the process, and that's not how the board's typically proceeded. So if they want to move in that direction, there's a couple small tweaks that we could make. I could make some suggestions. And if you're interested, I think in the fall, when Dan typically does the more comprehensive changes to the UDO, that could be one of them.
Are we okay with that? Okay, so we would look forward to then your changes and then consider them from there. Linda, this is you.
I'm Linda Novak. My sister Margie Novak saw this grant application to get sunscreen dispensers for the park. It's just one. And there's an example there that I gave Cindy. And it's free. That's, we just installed in the park, and then we would come down like every 2 weeks just to clean it up and make sure there's enough sunscreen in it. We just need signatures.
Yeah. So I was approached, kind of for a little clarification, this was on last month's agenda and then postponed to this month. I was approached by Margie, who is a skin cancer survivor.
Yes.
Yeah. And this is kind of something that's close to your heart. And if you're a parent who's ever been at the park and realized you didn't have sunscreen, this was something that was kind of cool. And there's no cost to the township. It would be one dispenser installed somewhere in the
Wherever you decide.
Yeah. Yeah, somewhere, I would assume, by the playground area, but it allows parents who may forget to have access to it. There's no cost to the township, and there's no maintenance
And it's
required.
automatic, you just put your hand under it and it comes out.
Yeah, it's kind of like the,
Yeah.
yeah, so super cool. If this board, and don't do what I just did with it.
That's an example, that's not the one.
It's very sturdy. It didn't break.
That's just
So
a
that's
sample,
good.
it looks
But-
just like it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, though, I held on to the key, and I shouldn't have.
Yeah, the
But
key
any
just opens
case,
if you open them on both sides. So
Yeah.
we could put it in there and then close it so nobody can open it up.
I don't recommend holding it by the key. So if we're okay with it, then it would need the signature of the
each
board.
supervisor,
I asked
so
Gretchen already to take a quick peek through it and see if there's any issues.
And we just need to know the approximate number of visitors.
Yeah, which we can work that out with Bill. That's your homework for tonight.
Pardon me? They only give you one, it's a grant.
Yeah. So we can kind of see if it works out really well, we can kind of move forward from there, but, yes. I don't know.
I have no idea.
Yeah, 30. SPF 30. Water resistant, 80 minutes, broad spectrum SPF 30.
It's from a
Oh,
dermatology.
it's Copper Tone Sport is what, and it has, for anybody who may have, allergies or anything, it has full ingredients on the side.
Now, if it gets,
It's surprisingly heavy.
Because the township will be responsible for any allergies or anything the child has.
Correct.
So you want to keep that in mind, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, it has full,
Has
so
the
maybe when we're
warnings.
checking it every 2 weeks, we can check
It
and
has
make sure the
warnings on the
sticker is
side,
still
right?
there. Yeah, I did. I asked her to consider it and look into it, and
Gretchen, is there a liability or anything? The children
I mean,
using it?
several parks have it, North Strabane has it.
Mr. Bain?
they're everywhere.
Yeah, and with the fact that there's a warning label on it, it's like when you buy something that has a label on it with what's in it, it tells you what's in there, so people have some responsibility to take a look and make sure they're not putting something on their skin if they see something they're allergic to.
I think it'd be a good thing.
We could maybe try it, but we do have 50 feet away, you can walk to Dollar General, and that's something North Strabane doesn't have, So we,
It's free,
Yeah.
no cost to the township.
I'm guessing it has been a long time since you've taken 3 or 4 kids in and out of a car to go 5 minutes away. It takes
I mean,
a
if
little
you don't-
longer than you would think.
If you don't want it, it's no big
Yeah.
deal.
No, I think it would be great, and I'm in favor of it. Anybody else?
I am.
Yeah, okay,
it.
great. So we'll get this checked over and signed for you.
And we can put it, we could put it up and we'll manage it. But if it gets vandalized,
Right.
like 2 times, that's it.
You're
Or
done.
something.
Yeah.
Or somebody just starts putting their hand under there.
Yeah. Anna, can you just grab the microphone so you're,
I just said, be aware of the possibility of the liability, because we are in a litigious society today. And I like to think all of our citizens, no one would do that, but one never knows. So I would caution the board, not that I'm against it. I think it's a great idea for the kids. But just be aware that that is a possibility. That's all. I'm just raising the issue with you.
definitely considered.
And
Thank
this is
you.
a dermatology foundation.
Yeah, it's fine.
That it's free, but donations are appreciated, if even $50 or something.
Great, we'll consider it. Thank you. Consider authorizing the township engineer to investigate the possible installation of a splash pad in Cecil Township. You want me to talk about that one too, or you? Okay, so again, Supervisor Gizio and I have been attending the Parks Board meetings, and they heard from a number of residents that, as I'm sure a lot of you are aware, that they would like a pool or a splash pad. And it's come up a number of times at their meetings, but they really don't even know what the cost would be or what would needed to install one. So where they know where to go from here, they asked if we would allow our township engineer to just investigate some of those questions. What's the water pressure required? What's the cost? Where would be some potential good locations? That kind of stuff. So if this board is okay with it, we'll authorize Dan. Dan, if you wouldn't mind just
Sure,
looking
we've,
into?
as I told you, we've worked on a couple of these already, so we have a little bit of a database of what they look like and probably have some costs related to it. So be a matter of just picking a couple locations, coming back to the board, giving you a little due diligence report, and then you can decide what the next steps are.
Yeah. Some of the things that they mentioned in the Parks Board meeting were that a couple of areas put in splash pads and then realized they didn't have the appropriate water pressure for the pieces that they installed. So that would be something we would rely on your
Number one, that's first thing you check.
Yeah, we would rely on your expertise for.
Yep.
Okay,
Sure.
great. So you'll look into that and get back to
I
us.
think, Dawn, you need to look into the insurance on that,
Yeah,
too.
that's. The splash pad, the liability and insurance and stuff on a splash pad too, just so we have an idea. Linda, if you, I'm sorry, if you could just come to the microphone. Sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you.
I didn't know this was coming up. But I was looking into this last year because I thought of a pool, but the splash pads would be better. And I found several grants, national and state, that you can apply for. I can send them to somebody.
That'd be great. You could send them to us. to
That will
Dawn.
give you money for that.
Please understand, this is not something that we're talking about next month, most likely even like in the next year. It's just future plans, trying to get all the information before we make decisions moving forward.
Who would I send that to?
You can send it to Dawn and me.
Okay.
Yeah, Dawn and me, Dawn and I. Discuss contributing $8,000 towards the demolition of 2 residential structures at 414 Blue Jay Drive and 3284 Millers Run Road. Dawn?
As the board may recall, there was a discussion to participate in the county's CDBG program, Community Development Block Grant Program, that would help us remove dilapidated and condemned structures. There were two units that were scheduled to be demolished, 414 Blue Jay Drive and 3284 Millers Run Road. The township had approximately $12,000 remaining in their allocation from these funds. However, the cost to demolish the structures came in very high over budget at $29,000. What the county was asking is if the township would make up the difference, which the difference is approximately $17,000. They wanted to take half of that from a future allocation of our grant program that we're eligible for, and they would want about $8,900 from the township's coffers to try to accommodate this demolition. I was speaking with some of the other supervisors, though, and there may be an alternate method or consideration to try to demolish these structures.
So are we not moving forward with this? I don't even know where this
I
came
did,
from.
if you don't mind, I had discussions with Mr. Bioni, who successfully took down 2 of the buildings in Muse. They were fairly challenging as well, and he was able to secure the whole project and get it done. What was it, Frank, 4,200?
$42,000.
So the thought was maybe to leave that money there, use it for another project, but send out a bid, spend the $60 and see if he would bid it or someone else, anyone would bid it, and just see what that number comes in. So it's worth it just to do that. He did look at the projects. He did not quote this one because the Washington Redevelopment or the authority, whoever was sending out the bid, did not specify whether abatement was necessary for the homes. So that would have doubled the process, so he decided not to. So if we can get that pinpointed, and if we can get that, if the board would like to do that bid, send out and put a bid, just to see to get it done. Money doesn't go away, and I don't believe we would be overpaying then.
Do we lien these properties? Will we lien them properties?
You would, but the likelihood of recouping the cost of these particular locations, I mean, you're talking almost $15,000 in lien. It's very unlikely that you would recoup it in the cost of plus the purchase price of that property.
Eric said 4,200, Frank said 42,000.
It was $42,000.
$42,000, excuse me.
Right. Now, that was 2 structures, and that was in a precarious location as well. So, we're talking almost $30,000 here.
It'd be worth it to get that bid.
Okay, well,
We would just have, the board would just have to authorize
We'd have to take a vote.
Gateway to prepare a brief project description, which Joe already did for Puccini's property, so
Okay.
that would just be the additional cost, in addition to the advertisement, just some small engineering fees to prepare the project documents.
well, since we're going to, it seems like we're going to take a vote on this. If anybody has comments or questions, we're going to open it up for comments and questions before we take a public vote. Oh, sorry. Could you step to the microphone, if you don't mind? Thank you.
My name's James Powers. I live on Sir James Drive. Rather,
Can you hold, sometimes it works better if you hold it.
sorry,
Thank you.
rather than spend the money, can you donate the property to the fire department for training? And just burn it then?
We could always inquire, but I think the particular location of these structures makes it probably difficult for a controlled burn. You're familiar with where I'm, Ed?
Yeah.
Going on Miller Front Road, being right on Miller Front Road like that, I think it would be very difficult with utility lines right there. I'm not sure about the interior of the building, if there's any asbestos or anything like that. That probably would be better.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your consideration.
Just an idea.
Okay.
Chief Cass.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, I was gonna just, same thing for Blue Jay. It's too close to the existing houses. It was a house fire, and so it's what's the remnants of what's left there.
Okay, thank you so much. So we're going to open it up. Do I have a motion to bid the demolition work for the residential structures at 414 Blue Jay Drive and 3284 Millers Run Road?
Second.
Moved in second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
5-0. Anybody else? Open it up for any other new business before we move on to old business. Okay, go ahead.
Cindy, just,
Hang on one second.
I'm sorry.
I don't know, let me ask. So there has been a request by the Parks and Rec Board to add an additional auxiliary member. Are we willing to consider that addition? I don't see why not, but
Who is it?
who is it?
The name is Jack Stronghold. I don't have a resume. I don't have any interest.
I don't see why not. I feel like they can get all the hands they can get, so I'd say we make a motion to add Jack, what was his last name? Strompel to the Parks and Rec Auxiliary Board. Before we move on, we need to open that up again also for questions, comments, concerns. Okay. I take a motion for that. I made the motion. You'll second, Tom. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. I apologize for that. Okay. Board of Supervisors discussion of old business. 143, 2019, consider the request for time extension of the conditional use application 2017-034 for a proposed self-storage facility. Applicant SPB Holdings LLC, Tom Robinson, location Northside South Point Boulevard, Morganza, C1 General Commercial Zoning District. The conditional use received Board of Supervisors approval on March 5th, 2018. Hi again.
Hi. Greg Banner with Key Environmental representing SPV Holdings. Yes, we had submitted a request for the extension of a conditional use approval for self-storage facility on the SPV property. Admittedly, we submitted it after the one-year deadline. You had approved the conditional use on March 5th of 2018. I should have gotten you a letter prior to March 5th, 2019. It was something that slipped by us. We went ahead and submitted it, hoping that you would consider it. The basic thing is we were not asking for an extension beyond the date of what we would have had we got it in on time. So, we submitted it beyond March. We're not asking for that extension to be beyond March, just to the March 5th of 2020.
I can only speak for myself, and I totally understand it. It was an oversight, but unfortunately, my personal preference would be to say, and I do understand there's board discretion, but to say, it wasn't a month, it wasn't a couple weeks, your extension expired in March and you came to us in July.
Right.
So I would say, most likely if you go, I don't want to speak because most likely it would pass should you go through another conditional use hearing, but unfortunately, I think that's the process.
I mean, we understand that the position we put you in, if you decline it, we'll just be back at the appropriate time requesting the conditional use approval again.
I would say, unfortunately, I can only speak for myself, but that's unfortunately the situation that would have to happen.
I think
I'm
you
gonna
have to
open it up.
resubmit, because otherwise, you're going to set a precedence for
I
everybody.
understand that you have that
Yeah.
to
That
consider.
expires.
But we wanted to give it a shot.
Yeah.
Again, we were not asking for anything beyond that year.
Yeah, we
So
understand.
you're not going beyond, or doing anything out of the ordinary with respect to that date.
Again, because we have to take a vote on this, we're going to open this up for public comment. Any questions, comments, concerns from the public? Okay.
I think you ought to give it to them because you're just going to go through the same exercise. Hi, I'm Kate McCullough again. Why put somebody through it when it might be several months, but why put somebody through all the time, effort, and money to come back in and basically try again?
To
Because
follow
we
our
have
rules.
rules and regulations.
To follow our rules. Our rules say you have to apply prior to the expiration of the application, which they did not do. And so that's what the rules say, so that's what we need to follow.
Okay, well, I'm just going on the record. I think you ought to give them that exception.
Thank you.
Yeah, but then you're going to do it for everyone.
Right. So I'm going to open this up for a vote. For a motion to consider the request for a time extension. So unfortunately, it dies for lack of a motion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, we'll see at the appropriate time.
I need to comment that we held an executive session, correct? Or you need to do it? Okay. Okay, so just for a bit of clarification, there was an executive session held today, started about 6:15 this evening. We discussed the ABB property with our legal counsel, and now we're going to open it up for citizens' general comments and questions. Yes, please, step to the microphone.
I'm Kate McCullough at 107 Fairway Landings Drive. And in the solicitor's report, Gretchen Moore mentioned a right-to-know appeal. I was the person that submitted that appeal. It was a simple request for as-built drawings that went to actually the state open records officer. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to be on the agenda. My first question is, was the board aware of any appeal prior to tonight? Did anybody inform them, the engineer, the township manager, or the solicitor?
So the process with right-to-know appeals is that I, as the solicitor, support the township and work with the township manager to respond to those appeals. And we were successful in that appeal, and that particular case is now closed.
That's one particular item, but Ms. Moore, during our email exchange, number one, you stated, or Alexis Wheeler stated, that you had mailed me your appeal as far as for the township. I never received it. The only way I was aware of it is Mr. Blake Ellsler sent me a copy of your email submission. And Mr. Ellsler made it very clear that when any submission was made, all parties should have had it at the same time. Members of the township had my email address. That wasn't addressed. Number two, I put it on the record that both the township engineer, Gateway Engineers, and your law firm have a conflict of interest as far as anything related to me. As a matter of fact, is Laura Gutnick still a member of your law firm?
Yes, she is a shareholder.
She's a shareholder. What's her position other than shareholder? Is she on your board? Do you have a board of directors? I know
No.
David Strasburger is your president. What's your role with the firm?
Ms. McCullough, I'm not sure what your angle is here tonight. You
I'm asking a
submitted a
question.
right-to-know appeal, and you lost, and the appeal's over.
No, you had a conflict of interest that if you read the laws, a public official, which you prepared an attestation for both Dawn Januso and for your township engineer to win that appeal. As a conflicted counsel, did you inform Cecil Township of your conflict of interest? Mr. Ehlers was aware of it. It was in there, and you unaddressed that in a multiple email chain of 14 emails.
Ms. McCullough, you sent 14 emails. I do not have a conflict of interest. I am aware of my professional responsibilities, and if I have a conflict of interest, I have to recuse myself. I don't have a conflict of interest, and I did my job in preparing the people who
Okay.
I work for their attestations, which is my job in
Okay,
defending
well then
right to
this
know
is what I'm
requests.
going to do. I'm going to take this matter to court. But also, in that email exchange, I made Mr. Ellers to make it aware to the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office, because a conflict of interest, once you prepared a document for Don Januso's without the board approval, without notifying them of the conflict, and let them decide, you have a problem. And there's a state disciplinary board, and there's a state ethics commission as far as Mr. Dizeroth, and Gateway Engineers. And at the Planning Commission back in June, I informed him of his conflict. I don't need to see anything else. I will see all of you in court. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Any other citizens' comments? Mhm. It's no problem. Yeah, I don't mind at all.
Gretchen, this is for you. I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but would you do some research on the reorganization issue and see what the code is for Cecil Township?
I'm not sure what your question is.
Okay, last meeting, it was thrown upon us, the board reorganized. It was not on the agenda.
Oh, okay. I
And
understand
I
the
would
question.
like to know if you would research our code and make sure that Cindy was saying that apparently they feel that it was appropriate. I do not, but I would like to know if it's in our Constitution.
Well, I can tell you these two things. One is that when there is a motion that comes up that's not on the agenda, it's opened up to the public. You're allowed to have motions that aren't on the agenda. You just open it up to the public. Not everything always makes the agenda. And that, I was reminded, was opened up to the public. And the service of the positions of the board, so the chairman, the vice chairperson, those are all at the pleasure of the board. So there are no particular time constraints about reorganization. They serve at the pleasure of the board.
And you've researched this. I don't agree with that. I'm going to do the research.
I've
It's not
actually,
that I have anything against anyone up there. That's not my motive tonight. We need to make sure that we're doing the right thing. And I just thought it was inappropriate for Eric to just surprise him. And the people in the audience, no one here knew about it either. And I just think it was inappropriate for our township to do something like that. It doesn't look good. And I want to know if it's legal or if it's binding within our code. If it is, fine. But if it isn't, then we need to go back and revisit the issue.
So Anna, I'm going to ask you to address any questions to the board, first of all. Second of all, Gretchen's answered that question. She looked into it. We didn't violate any rules. You're welcome to look into anything that you want to and address the...
I'm not, excuse me for interrupting. I'm asking Gretchen as our attorney to look into it. Wouldn't that not be where we would go? Who else would I ask?
She actually represents us, not the citizens, and she has already answered and looked into that for us. And her opinion, correct me if I'm wrong, is that we did not violate any rules, laws, ordinance, ethics, whatever you want to say. And so, like I said, you're welcome to look into it, but at this point, as far as we're concerned, it's
Okay,
done.
let me see if I understand you correct. You're telling me tonight, and all the citizens here, that our tax dollar pays Gretchen, and it's only for the board. We have no right to Gretchen as our attorney.
right, so yes, I am the solicitor for the township, which means I answer to the board, and I do what a majority of the board directs me to do, or I otherwise defend and represent the township as I see
just wanted to
fit.
clarify that
Yes.
and make sure. My second question for you, Gretchen, and
Anna, I'm going to ask you to address any questions to the Board of Supervisors.
well, this is about, okay, Cindy, I would like for you to ask Gretchen, our attorney, this question. and I'm not sure that she can answer it. It's a legal question. But back in June, Eric, our chairman at the time, asked Gretchen to check into the ABB attorneys, because they were fired, okay? And he asked them to asked Gretchen to check the contract to see if we, being the township, could get out of the contract without any consequences or liability. And that was back in June. I have not heard anything directed to that question yet. So I would like to know, A, has she looked into it, and can she give us an answer tonight?
At this point, there is no formal decision that's been made by this board. She has continued to check into it and provide this board. One of the things that was discussed during our the thing that was discussed during our executive session this evening was ABB and the contract. We continue, but at any point, whether we would make a formal decision, it would be done publicly.
But when do we expect that decision? We're talking about June. This is August. And all the simple question that I understand Eric asked was, can we get out of the contract without any liability? In other words, can ABB sue us? So I don't know if anyone else heard that, and if you do, speak up. But that's my understanding, that Eric asked Gretchen to check into it. So why can she not give us an answer? I mean, we're talking 2-3 months. I know she has other things. I understand that, Gretchen, and I'm not trying to point a finger at you. But I like answers, and I think 2-3 months has given enough time that we deserve an answer.
So I can say this.
It's going to be our money. I mean, it's township money we're talking about, too.
And I can say this to help answer your question.
Okay.
I have provided the board with my legal opinion. We've had legal discussions. Anything I discuss with the board is protected by the attorney-client privilege and therefore would never be discussed outside of the context of that privilege. But I have provided them with any information that they've requested of me from a legal standpoint related to the property.
So you're telling me and the citizens here now, tonight, because of attorney-client privilege, that we, as taxpayers, and God knows I pay a lot. I have no kids in school, and I've been paying school tax for 100 years.
Well,
Not
school
100
tax
years.
doesn't
But,
come to
no,
the township.
I know. That's just a side note, Cindy. Don't get into an argument with me. I was just trying to be funny, and I didn't succeed, apparently. But I still don't understand why we as taxpayers do not have the privilege of an answer. Does anyone else agree with me? I mean, don't we deserve an answer?
I think it's because we don't know the answer yet.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. Cindy just said to you only got Gretchen's answer tonight. So as a board, you have to make a decision, and you will at some point down the road, hopefully not too distant future, let us know what the decision is. Is that correct?
So please understand, there were many parts to the questions, and questions that then became additional questions, and we needed to reach out to the DEP, which took a period of time for them to respond. So yes, there was a period of time, and I know June seems that far away, but it was really about 6 or 8 weeks to get us some information, So yes, we got the final piece of information this evening, or what I would say would be the final piece of information this evening. There has been no formal decision. There was no formal decision in executive session. There was no formal decision this evening. Should this board decide, and I can only speak for myself, but should this board decide to add it as an agenda item, it will be voted on and publicly discussed in September, but I don't want to make that promise because I don't.
I appreciate that, and I understand that, but I just want to make sure that we're on the same page. You're telling us tonight you cannot make a decision on the attorney part. You have to make a decision more than just about I'm just asking what you did with the attorney. The simple question to me that Eric asked was, are we liable? Gretchen's our attorney. That's a simple question. Most people in here could probably
So
answer
let me
it.
reiterate that Gretchen did provide us answers to those questions, as
Okay,
she
fine.
said.
Now, when are you, so you're telling me somewhere down the road, you will give us an answer, right?
Anna, there's ongoing negotiations. What don't you understand?
I understand. And
Well,
please-
that's what it is. That's the answer. It's ongoing negotiations. We don't have an answer tonight.
Excuse me, Frankie, don't insult me.
I'm not insulting you, but that's where the
Yes, you are.
case is.
You said, don't you understand? That
It's
is a-
ongoing
that is an insult,
negotiations.
And I do not
Anna,
appreciate it.
Anna, let me, there
Well,
will be
I
a
think
point,
Frankie
Anna.
owes me an apology.
No,
Excuse
listen to me for a second.
I have been
Anna.
very nice about this, but I'm just pressing the issue because I think we deserve an answer. And I do not appreciate you, Frankie,
Anna.
asking me, don't you know? That's an insult. And I
Anna,
just
listen
want
to me for
you
one
to know.
second. We will, at the point in time this
I
board
understand
decides
that,
to make a
Cindy.
decision.
I understand.
So
All right.
I'm not really sure what else we can tell you. We've told you, Gretchen did answer the question. She answered the questions
Well,
that
you're
Eric
not telling
asked.
me anything that you're not telling me what we want to know. Not I. I got phone calls, people wanting to know this, and they wanting to know. So I'm speaking for other people, not just for
Well,
myself.
at this point, I would say we don't know.
So
So we
you're-
can't
all right.
answer questions that we don't know.
Okay, your point is well taken.
Thanks.
And that's all I have to say.
Any other questions or comments this evening?
And I do have one other one if no one else does. Don Januso.
I'm going to ask again,
oh,
Anna, that you address all
okay,
questions to the
Cindy
board.
Fisher, I would like
No,
for you-
not to me, to the
All right.
board as a whole.
How would you like for me to address you, Cindy?
You can address me as Cindy, but you're asking the questions of the board as a whole. You're
All
not
right.
saying me.
Well, we've never done this before. Do you want to speak? This will be quick. Okay, I will address the board. And this is actually, I think it should go through Dawn, I'm not sure. But I would like a copy of the letter of the April, I believe, 25th meeting that Cindy Fisher, chairman now, read to the board from, I believe it was from Darla Bowman, about the ABB property. You read the letter in the public meeting.
You can submit
I
a right
have
to know.
that, I have that letter, and I deleted it.
Hold on. I'm sure we have it, but
Why
if
don't
you want that information, I would encourage you to submit a right to know request. Any information that comes from this board would need to be provided to you via a right to know request.
Excuse me, what a runaround, Cindy. That was a public, wait a minute. It was a public, you read the letter in a public meeting. Why do I have to do a right to know? It's a public meeting, it was a letter you read. It's already public.
That's a process.
It was my personal letter from Darla Bowman.
Ron, it's all right.
Wait, yeah. just-
Ron,
Okay, so,
It's
and
also-
I think a lot of people do understand the process here. Every request for a public document goes through the manager as a right-to-know officer through a right-to-know request. It's just what the law requires. It provides organization of the process so that everyone keeps track of what everyone's getting. It's a one-page document. It's very simple. It's not burdensome.
I respect you, Gretchen. I respect what you are and your knowledge, but I disagree with you and I understand the right to know, believe you me. I've been in this township 40 years and I've been coming to meetings all that long, so I know what the procedure is. But my question is, since it was read, Cindy read it in public, and Ron, I'm sorry if you deleted it, but it's on YouTube. They're telling me someone is. But the bottom line is, Cindy, you read. I'm not trying to do a I gotcha thing. I just want to see the letter. Everybody seems to think that we're in an I gotcha mode, but I want a copy of the letter. You read it in a public meeting, Gretchen.
Anna,
and
let
it
me
should be-
let me reiterate, and then if it's okay with you, we're going to move on. Any public documents need to be released after a right-to-know request. It's a very simple form that can be filled out, submitted to the township, to Don Januso, our right-to-know officer, and then he will release that information to you. So if
And
you would
we
like
will-
that.
We will move on, but let me ask you, what is it that you guys are trying to hide that you don't want me to have a copy of the letter? I'm serious, I'm serious.
Nobody-
You can go on YouTube and watch her read it.
Anna,
If you're above board, give me a copy of the letter if you have nothing to hide.
Anna, nobody's saying that we won't give you a copy of the letter.
No,
We're
but I
saying
got
in
it.
order to follow the law, you need to submit a right-to-know
Yeah,
request.
after it was already made public, and that doesn't make sense. I mean, and Greg.
Anna, all that was a comment from Darla Bowman stating that Muse School had no interest in coming through the ABB property. That's all it was.
That wasn't all Cindy read. You go on YouTube and
Anna,
read it.
okay, with all due respect,
What?
we've answered your question related to this. If you would
No,
like
you
that
didn't. No, you
document, please, we are happy to provide it to you, but please submit a right to know request. Do you have any additional questions?
Well, I'm not finished yet. I would like to address Supervisor Flair because he did not give all the information. And if he would like to give it now in public, I would be more than happy. If you know what's on it,
I don't know
have
what you
to ask
want.
for- If you know what's in the letter and you want to tell us now, then.
Anna,
fine.
we're not doing.
I told you what was in the letter.
Ron, we're not doing this.
No,
Anna, if
no,
you would like
because
a
you
copy.
have something to hide. If you didn't have anything to hide, you would put that letter out right now. And
What am I hiding? All it was a comment on Facebook that she sent to me.
Well, that wasn't what
Okay.
Cindy read. We have it on video, what Cindy read in the meeting. And
Well,
that
then,
wasn't
then what do you want a copy
Then
of it
watch
for?
it. Anna, we're moving on. Do you have any additional questions?
No, I don't.
Okay, so then I would ask you to pass the microphone to the next person who wants to speak.
Jesus, man.
My name's Diane Ritz-Nicolella, and I'm from Windsor Woods. You had the map up there that you were going to make some recommendations and approve the new map. We in Windsor Woods don't have Cecil Township roads yet because it's not fully built. Is that why it looks like there's only 2 streets there?
Yep.
Because it's going to look like this, and in fact, this area here is going to have an additional 150 homes in it. And we don't exist until the Cecil Township takes over the roads, because there's going to be a well pad 1,000 feet from our homes, less than 1,000 feet from other people's homes. And we don't want to be considered R1 when, we're a high density, or at least a medium density. And also and this is from the Post-Gazette, this Sunday's paper. And also this last Sunday. This Sunday, I just want to read a few paragraphs. It won't be quite as long as Anna.
No problem.
There have been plenty of high-profile landslides dislodging and destroying oil and gas pipelines over the past few years, just as rains have wreaked havoc outside of the oil field. With hundreds of well pads and thousands of miles of pipelines newly added to the grounds in Pennsylvania over the past decade, the industry's development disturbs the surface and eliminates some trees and vegetation that would otherwise absorb rainfall. Then the rain, in turn, floods culverts, soaks the ground, and moves soil without regard to what pipelines may be relying on its support. What we usually hear about is the big stuff, the fireballs in the sky documented by live streaming drivers and neighbors. Last year alone, 3 newly laid pipelines snapped under pressure from landslides in Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Ohio, causing explosions, evacuations, and millions of dollars in damage. One problem, and this was a general operations manager for Chevron. He was speaking on the same panel as Mr. Bizak and was asked to put the regional landslides into a broader context. We have operations in San Juan Valley and Silicon Valley, and we don't seem to have the same level of concern on those areas. One problem, he said, is eroding local roads, which can cut off access to well pads and hold up millions of dollars worth of equipment, which is what you have on North Deep Paoli. And I'm not sure how that's ever going to get resolved. We have road failures, which have limited our ability to get into our pads and remove water. So we've just had to shut in down production. Mr. Johnson estimated that it would cost $30,000 to properly maintain 1 mile of road, including cleaning off debris and ensuring culverts empty property. It's a township's job, but it's cheap insurance. Maybe that's the right thing to do for us. Even well pads, which are not built on slopes, which Augustine is on a slope, and require flat land, which it's really not, are falling victim to rain-propelled erosion. When the shale boom began, Mr. Johnson said, companies were building these flat platforms with no real thought on the damage component. The failures taking place on our pads are taking place 6 to 7 years after the installation. We in Windsor Woods are still very concerned. North Paoli, and I have pictures taken, 16 feet wide. You have a 3-foot hole measured. I've put 2 recycle bins in them, and it still doesn't come up to the top, to try to make people aware that there is a 3-foot hole on an area that is only 16 feet wide. And I know Meritage said that they may be improving that area, but I don't know how they can improve by where the restaurant is. Are you going to take over part of the parking lot?
Yep.
How about where the trestle is? There's a driveway that goes up. You're going to take out the telephone pole, and which is part of the driveway. It's at the end of the driveway, and a telephone on the other side. It's still, and you can see there's a car there. I can pass this around if you'd like.
Dan, do you have the drawing? You said you had a sketch you might be able to put up maybe to understand better.
You see that's just an SUV. Is there going to be room for these type of trucks that come in a line like that? The tankers. Have you ever seen them? And they go down the road, they only follow the first truck. They don't consider it's a road that other people have to use. It's our only way in and out. We have King Edward Drive. We are basically 200 and plus homes. And we have one way out, King Edward Drive, which goes to North Paoli. And you're not allowing Range Resources to use Coleman Road. Why is Coleman Road in such bad repair that you can't have 25-foot trucks on that road? There are signs there when you turn from North Paoli to go to Coleman, to go up to Bednar's. No trucks over a certain weight and no trucks over 25 feet. But North Paoli, it's a mess. And you're going to let these trucks come up there? We're very concerned. And the people behind me, kind of raise your hand, those that are concerned. We're not going away. And we're going to be here because this is vacation month. We're going to be here. You're having new in developments, Traditions of America, 300 and some homes, apartments, other ones. When they do this fracking, you realize it goes out 4 miles on either side of where those well pads are, disturbing the land. Are these people, thousands of people moving into Cecil Township, are they going to be aware that there may be disturbance? I had a new high-pressure gas line put behind my house last summer. Is this fracking going to disturb that and maybe crack it? I don't know. But I was not aware of it when I signed the contract to build my new house. We are the people that you're taking care of. You've got parks, and if there's a blast, people aren't going to be moving to Cecil. They're not going to be bringing their kids in here. We're asking Range Resources to give us air monitoring system down on Sir Charles, which is low, because we have a lot of children down there.
Have they agreed?
Pardon?
Have they agreed to put air monitoring in?
No, no. We asked the guy, what happens if the if the air quality is bad? He was a deer in our headlights. He had nothing to say. He had nothing, no solution. He couldn't tell us what would happen if the air quality was higher than what is allowed. He couldn't tell us. He had no idea. So please consider not having any more well pads, not signing any more licenses. South Fayette has not had them, and they're a thriving community.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Lisa Wolk, 2046 Sir Patrick Drive. I'm just going to reconfirm a few things that Diane said. The neighbors are very concerned about the well pad being so very close to so many residents. We have a lot of seniors and we have a lot of young children in that neighborhood. There's a lot of concern. There's a lot of danger. I don't know what research or what information you guys know about fracking and the toxins, the air quality, the water. Of course, just like Diane said too, we have another gas line going through there. Just like the explosion that just recently happened. If something happens up there, you're not going to have to worry about anything on that hill because it will be blown to pieces. So that you won't need any rescue. We will be an ash pile up there. So I just want to bring those concerns to you guys when you choose to approve a well pad in a residential area. Not probably the best decision to do. You're risking a lot of lives and you're taking on a lot of liability. Some of the questions I had is just to revisit some of the questions I had last month. And my first question was in regards to the Section 403H of your UDOs, and that is in regards to your time limitations on conditional use. And the one requirement is in regards to having all the permits and application for occupancy permit submitted. So I know we questioned that, so I'm back to find out if that has all been received from the board and supervisors, township.
We can't answer that. Unfortunately, there is a court hearing August 8th, and so because it's being litigated, we can't answer that question at this point in time.
So you're not able to tell us whether or not a permit's been received from the...
For an occupancy permit, there is no occupancy permit that's been issued.
Okay. My next question in regards to your additional conditions listed when you approved for the well pad. Number 24, does the township have on file the current list of safety data sheet, or formerly referred to as the material safety data sheet? That is a sheet that lists all of the chemicals used in the drilling and factoring operations. Do you guys have that on file?
Okay. So unfortunately, our fire code official was the one that would have that, and he is not here this evening, so we're truthfully not sure whether or not that's been received or not.
Okay. How is it that I would be able to find that out? Can I call Monday?
You could call or you could do a right-to-know request. If you
Okay.
submitted a right-to-know request.
And is that on the website?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Hi, I'm Linda King. I live on Sir James Drive. Thank you for hearing me. I'm coming here before you with a heavy heart because of the well that's being built off of North DePauli. What I don't know for sure that you know.
If you hold the microphone, it's sometimes easier. Thank you.
Sure. What I'm not sure that you might or might not be aware of is all of the health risks associated with the emissions from a well. And I want to read something very quickly. It's not long, it's just a paragraph. This is a study that was done in June 2019, so very recent, by the Compendium of Scientific, Medical, and Media Findings demonstrating risks and harms of fracking. So in short, I'm just reading a very quick statistic. 87% of original research studies on air quality found significant air pollutant emissions, and 84% of original research studies on human health risks found signs of harm or indication of potential harm. I have been reading study after study after study from the American Medical Association, from Johns Hopkins, a variety of different healthcare organizations that are all saying pretty much the same thing. It's a very dangerous thing to do in such close proximity to a residential area, and in fact, even miles out. So I'm very concerned that maybe you're not aware of some of those statistics, some of those studies. I know fracking can be a good thing. I understand the purpose behind it. I know that we need to become a nation that's energy independent. I get all of that. And I was a proponent of it, and I can say that I still am, as long as it's not in my backyard. In my backyard, it's very disconcerting. And it shouldn't just be for the folks in Windsor Woods. This is all of Cecil. These are very toxic air emissions. It doesn't just come from the well pads. It comes from the condensate tanks. It comes from the compressor stations. It's a very scary thing. And so I'm asking you, if you haven't really done due diligence, if you haven't really paid attention to all of these new studies, not the studies that were done before or anything at all that's being promoted by Range Resources, I'm asking you please to take a look at those things. And if you have other information that would make me feel better, or any of my neighbors, or anybody here who's concerned about that, I'd like to know where your statistics are coming from, where your research is coming from. I really would, because I want to read that. I want to feel better about what's going on in that neighborhood. So that's it. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you.
Hello, James Powers again from Windsor Woods. First of all, you all say you weren't on the board to approve the permit for Range Resources initially.
No, you said we weren't on the board?
Is that what you're all saying?
No, that is not true. Supervisor Fleer was not on the board.
I'm the only one who wasn't on the board.
Okay, well, you've heard from all these people, all their concerns, but we haven't heard anything from any of you about your feelings about it.
So unfortunately, because there is active litigation, as I said, there is a hearing August 8th. We can't. We are bound basically to stay quiet until that hearing takes place. Or while the litigation goes on, I should say.
Well, knowing what you know, if there was a vote today to allow Range Resources to continue, would any of you vote for it?
Again, because it's active litigation, we can't answer that question. I'm sorry. We do hear you, I will say
We all
that.
come here for information from you people, and we're not hearing anything.
We hear you. That's what I can say. We hear what you're saying, but unfortunately, we can't respond. We wish we could. I can only speak for myself. I wish we could. I wish I could, but we can't.
Well, and again, if they don't have all their permits in line, how can they move forward?
Again, as I said, yeah. I apologize, but unfortunately, because it's active litigation, we can't answer that question.
Okay. I'd like a little more response from you people. It's just, it's disheartening to all of us that we can't get a response.
Believe me, we understand. We really do. I know it doesn't come across that way, but we do understand.
Okay, forgive me, I'm not a public speaker.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Ed Jarris, and I'm on Sir James Drive in Windsor Woods. I just want to elaborate on the North DePauli Road again, that what Daniel had said earlier about his engineer's report. So last week I was coming down the hill, approaching the stop sign. I was probably about 75 yards before I got to that point, and I saw a large truck swinging up to turn left to come into North DePauli. And it was a lowboy, which means it's hauling a heavy piece of equipment. Now, there was nothing on the truck. It was empty. But he was swinging wide left to come up the hill. There was a silver car parked in the gravel parking lot adjacent to the restaurant. And it wasn't far from the road. He swung in, and somehow he was able to make the turn. But it was very difficult for him to make the turn. The other thing is that somebody had taken out the stop sign down there, either run over it or something, and it was laying there for about a week, and now apparently the township or someone has put a new stop sign back up. But the point I'm trying to make is just additionally that it's a very difficult way to come out of there, and I hope Daniel's group comes up with a solution to make it a lot more safer for the people to come out of the road. Thank you.
Huh? We could.
Andrea Raymer, Pap Road, 24 Pap Road. This isn't about big trucks or anything, but it's about the traffic that's on Burnside Road coming up to Pap Road. Maybe we have to think about having a stop sign at the top of Burnside where it meets Pap Road, because cars don't see the 25 miles an hour, and they come up through the middle of the road, and if you're at that intersection, you cannot see anybody coming up the hill. And there has been, for myself, at least 2 occasions when there could have been a nice crash if I hadn't been looking backwards to see if anybody was zipping up the hill after I made it through the intersection. My husband has been almost forced off the road several times because those cars come up the middle of the road. They have no conception of the speed that they are doing. And then they toot the horn like you are in the wrong place.
Yeah. Andrea, we can have our Director of Public Works, do you want to take a look?
So we don't have to worry just about big
Okay, I
trucks.
take that back. We're going to have Mike Haberman, our traffic engineer, look into that. So, thank you. Okay. You'll let us know.
Hi,
Hi, my name's Marilyn Hicks, 4013 Sir James Drive. I've been here 8 months, so I don't know, and maybe the board can tell me, if there's an emergency within Cecil Township, how do you get word out to people? If there's a major, I'm just going to say that, what if the bridge fell down? How do we get emergency notices out to the public?
You want me to answer that? It's
Nobody,
Jason.
we don't.
You want me to answer? You want to answer? You want to take a microphone? So I'll just answer. So we're currently working on, Jack King, our assistant manager, is currently working on an active 911 system, correct me if I'm wrong, and that would be a form of notification for emergencies.
Okay.
But there's nothing currently.
So if a major thing happened, like our gas well or our gas line or something, we would not have notification from the township that something major has happened somewhere in the township until this 911 is put in.
I'm sure our firemen, local firemen would notify people.
Do they have our numbers, or, I mean, how do they, that's what I'm trying to figure out as a new resident. How do you inform? You have a big, I never knew this township was this big.
So we don't
It's
have.
very big.
So the issue is, and I asked that question during the conditional use hearing, and there is an emergency preparedness plan that they have filed with the township. Unfortunately, we don't have it in front of us, so to answer that question, we really can't right now. But if you file a right-to-know request, you would have access to that, and then you could answer that question. But because that specific information isn't in front of us right now, I don't know.
Okay, but you are working on one of those 911s that if something would come out.
Correct.
It would get to everyone in the township.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right, thank you. I never hear a fire whistle. Close to what?
We had the Facebook page too that was being worked on.
What?
We had that Facebook page as well that was being worked on.
There's no Facebook page.
Pardon me?
There is no Facebook page.
It was up for a couple days and
it's gone.
Maybe would the board consider putting that up?
Wait, I'm sorry, I can't hear anything at the moment. I'm sorry, what was the question?
I was just addressing that we had a Facebook page up and the possibility of putting it back up just to inform the public of the information.
So at this point, and this question was asked of us, I think that we need to take one step at a time. We're in the process of working on the website and updating it for information. And then once that is completed, we can address Facebook, but we don't want to put the cart before the horse. Was that your question or something you brought up?
We were addressing it as another response on how to educate people.
I mean, but the problem with that is somebody would be able to update the Facebook page between the hours of 9 and 4, and then if there's an emergency at 4:20 and people are waiting for a Facebook notification, it's not going to happen, which is one of the many reasons that it was kind of squashed momentarily, not permanently.
I don't see it as being a problem. We have the police officers have a very nice Facebook page, and then also that issue wasn't brought up when the Parks and Rec had a Facebook page.
So Parks and Rec Facebook page is different, because there's somebody that puts information out. The police also work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Our township staff does not. So, as I said, that was addressed with this board. This board, a majority of this board said, work on the website first, and then we can go on from there. So
I was never made aware of it. I never knew. The question was never put to me.
there was
The question as to whether or not we have a Facebook page.
There was an email sent by Mr. King to our board as a whole. You were on that email.
Okay.
You're welcome to go back and read it. I can look it up right now and tell you when it was sent. Bear with me one second.
But the board's decision was not to do a Facebook page currently?
At this point in time. Bear with me one second. Facebook page proposal,
That was an email
July
after the-
18th.
That was after the fact or before it was introduced?
So I don't want to get into it. I don't want to get into what the process wasn't or a township, if you wouldn't mind if we could have your attention for just a second. The process wasn't followed for board approval. There was a Facebook page that was apparently put up for a few days, unbeknownst to most of us on the board. And then there was an email that was sent out asking for permission, and majority of the board said, not right now, not no, not right now. And that was the decision of the board. So if you're okay with it, we're going to move on to public comment. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm Tracy Saber. I live at 4009 Sir James Drive. It's my understanding that Range Resources has secured the parking lot at the bottom of North Deep Paoli. It's not, is that not correct?
No, I didn't.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
You mean they have a lease agreement, or, I mean, that's not township property. We wouldn't be aware of any.
Is that township property?
It is not township property. The gravel parking lot that's parallel to
Correct.
50, yeah, that's not township property.
So then it would be private property, and they would have had to,
Secure permission from the property owner, correct?
Right, a
Yes,
lease.
that's right.
okay, well, that's what I've been told, and I wanted to know if, what the township was going to do as far as, we have obstructed visibility with the Thai restaurant right there. It's very difficult to see around that corner.
That's what this plan will address, the drawing in front of you. It will address the site distance issue.
And then if they have secured that parking lot, then the trucks will be lined up in that area to go up North Deep Paoli to drill. And so we would now have limited visibility on both sides. And I wanted to ask the board to look into this, because if they do secure that lot, we have another problem in getting in and out. And I also wanted to make another comment. I was coming home from Bednar's about a week ago, and where they're constructing the well pad, they have filled in the entrance with these huge rocks, they're about this big. And they're already being kicked out into the middle of the street. I had to dodge 2 of them. And it was my understanding that they were to keep the road free and clear of any type of debris from the well production. And they haven't even started drilling yet, and it's already a problem. So, I've seen 2. I've dodged 2. You have? Okay. Well, she has and I have, so that's 2 of us.
We're not going to, if you can address the board, we're not going to get into
Okay,
arguing about.
I
We
apologize.
trust that if you're saying that.
Okay,
that you
so, we have a problem with this road already, with all the issues that everybody else has brought up. So I'm asking the board to, whatever Range Resources has agreed to, they need to abide by it at all times. Because it's your responsibility to protect us as citizens, our safety. And that's not being done right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Kathy Pigford, Brookside Drive. I just wanted to address the board before they make any decisions about whatever the lawsuit is regarding that well pad. I don't know if any of you have read the book Amity and Prosperity. It's about a person that happened to be represented by a Cecil Township attorney and his wife. And it was for drilling that messed up well water out in that area. You can't fight Range Resources. They will take you to court over and over again. I suggest you read the book. It is a page turner. And if we get into a battle with Range Resources, we will have no funds to do anything in this township. So I think you need to look hard at before you consider taking them on.
Just
as
as a side
township.
note, it's a Pulitzer Prize winning book.
It is a Pulitzer Prize winning book, yes.
Yes.
Michelle Stonemark, 40 North DePauli. I have a few things to address. The first, Mrs. Pickford said about amity and prosperity. It's actually us that the few residents of us that are suing Range, not the township. They're with Range. So I'm going to take Range as far as I can. If I have to take them to the Supreme Court, I'll fight and fight and fight and fight because I don't care. I'm already winning. I don't see a well pad up there yet. As far as I'm concerned, I'm already willing. You're right. Sorry, I am supposed to address the board.
True. Sorry.
That being said, I also want to reiterate a little bit about what Lisa and Diane said. There is something called the Southwest Environmental Health Project that will install free air quality monitors for people should they want that. Before drilling starts, they recommend that air quality monitors and water monitors be installed prior to the beginning of any type of drilling. That way you have a baseline, and they will do it all for free. I also wanted to let everybody know that I really appreciate all this negativity that's happening tonight. I really appreciate all the effort that the board has taken with Parks and Rec because it's long overdue. I think the Parks and Rec board and the auxiliary board and Wendy and Jen, she left, everybody's doing a great job. And I love seeing that stuff on the agenda. I love seeing you guys put our money towards that and improving this township and actually doing things in a positive way than us sitting here all the time having to yell and complain and fight about stuff. So kudos to that. On that note, I do have a question about the UDO zoning changes that you guys were talking about. One of the things I think Gretchen said was that if someone wanted to rezone their property, it would come in front of you first to decide whether or not they should have a hearing?
So just in the past, and I won't call out any specific, there have been times where this board has had a hearing for a zoning request and have not made a decision at all. Haven't voted yes, haven't voted no, and kind of have left things hanging. The idea behind that would be to not have that happen so that we can kind of decide whether or not in advance, you're not deciding in advance, but decide whether or not the board is really going to consider those requests. And if we make a commitment and take somebody's money for that rezoning, that we owe it to them then to vote. Whether it be yes or no, we're not saying,
right.
But we're saying that we will at some point in the future, in the not so distant future, take a formal vote on it. And that's really the only purpose behind that.
I just cautioned you because I had, being on the comprehensive planning committee, all the comments we heard were about people's properties being rezoned. Everything was about that. That's what everybody's upset about. Nobody wants to see their property changed. Everybody's upset about the map that we had recommended. So my only suggestion would be just tread lightly, because I would hate to see someone come in front of this board and say, I want a hearing, and have you guys be like, no, we're not even going to give you a hearing, even if they're willing to pay for it. So I think that there has to be some sort of appeal process or something so that the resident, if you say, no, we don't want to give you a hearing, they can still say, well, I demand one. Because I don't think that that's fair, that if they're willing to put the money forward. I mean, I see both sides. I see that if you're saying, look, we're not going to rezone your property, so don't bother wasting your money, I can appreciate that. But I also think that the person says, well, I want an actual hearing with an actual court reporter to go on in the actual record that I can appeal in the court of common pleas. They should be entitled.
Well, so that's part of the problem, though. So if there's never a vote taken, there's nothing to appeal. So that's kind of what happened in the past is there was never a vote taken, never a yes, never a no.
Right.
It just was never added to the agenda. And so now there's nothing for that person to appeal, so they spent their money, and that person being figuratively, but
right.
There's nothing to appeal, so they spent all this money and went through the process of the rezoning, but never got a result.
So it would just basically be a formality, like they want...
So it would basically be a guarantee to whoever is going through that process that this board will take a formal vote.
Okay.
Am I explaining that correctly, sort of?
Right. Again, Rezoning is one of those areas that it's purely legislative. It's not like an adjudication. It's not like a conditional use where you have to have a hearing if you're an applicant. So it's purely within the board's legislative decision, not their quasi-judicial, which makes it different than your typical
Right.
hearings. So it's just a way to get a little more due process out of it. And the board, maybe listens to the first request when they come in for the application and knows that it's not something this board is interested in even considering at this time, to not waste that person's time and money.
But I just, and I totally appreciate that, 100%. But if there was a person that didn't agree with that decision, would they have an alternative to request a hearing anyway? Would they have that ability?
We haven't written anything at this
That's what I
point,
mean,
so
like
it's
going
definitely
into that
something to
process, that's
consider.
just what I was thinking about when I was sitting there. Like, I would hate if I wanted to put, like a baseball field on my property and have it rezoned, whatever. And I wanted to come before the board and you guys were like, no, too bad, we're not even gonna give you a hearing. Because that doesn't even give me the opportunity to ever say, well, you can't, you have to let me. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't give me any opportunity to come back and say, well, I want a hearing because then I want you to vote on it and I want to be able to appeal it to the higher courts.
Right, we hear what you're saying, it's definitely
Yeah.
something to consider.
Well,
At this
They
point,
don't even
nothing's
have to
been.
vote,
Right,
which is the
right,
thing.
right.
They could just not vote too. It's
Right.
not something you can appeal, like in that context.
There was one gentleman who paid $400 for his hearing. He hired a professional planner to present his case. Over a year ago, it was a year in July, and this board never made no decision for the man.
Right. So, there's a reason behind it.
But if that change comes up, obviously it would be part of a zoning amendment change and be publicly advertised, and then people could look at the actual language and come comment.
And I know that the board is not, just not to change the subject back to the well pad, but the board was not at liberty to say anything about it, but I know that during the conditional use hearing, we did ask what would happen because our houses are 600 feet away, and we were told that range would go door to door. So we would have to wait for a range official to get to the property from wherever they are, and then come door to door and knock on our door and hope that we're still alive at that point when they get there to tell
Michelle,
us.
I'm gonna ask you to address.
Sorry.
that. That's okay.
So we would have to go door, they would have to wait, we would have to wait for range to come to our house and wait for them to come knocking on our door and tell us, there's a problem.
All right.
And finally, the last thing I wanted to say was, I give a lot of credit to Don Januso because I do file a ton of right to know requests. I file a ton of them. Tons. I mean, you can ask him, he can shake his head if he wants. He gets probably one a week from me at least.
He's glaring at you
Yeah,
currently.
he hates me. And there is a lot of time and effort that he puts into that. So it is something that, I feel like people think that I get information from you or I get information from you. I'm constantly sending him right to know requests. And I do go through it the proper channels, and half the time he sends me something back and he says, guess what, you're not allowed to have this. Or sometimes he sends me back and says, here's all the information you're looking for. Sometimes he says, come in, we have an entire book of meeting minutes for the last 2 years, and I'll sit there and look through the meeting minutes. It's never something that I've never been denied what I was looking for without a written answer to why I was denied it and the opportunity to appeal it. So I just wanted to make that clear to everybody in the audience and to the board also that he does a great job.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, at this point, the meeting is adjourned at 9:22 PM. Okay.